Hello BookTube, and in this video I'm going to be giving you my reading and live streaming plans for August 2025. Now when it comes to my reading plans, the overwhelming majority of it is going to be for Garb August, which is the event created by Olly that runs every August and is where you celebrate all things trash. And so all but two of the books I'm going to be reading are going to be for Garb August. One of those is connected to another event, which I will talk about when I come to it, and the final one has no connection to any BookTube event whatsoever. So, and also, whilst I have most of the books I'm going to read here either in physical copies or as audiobook, there are a few that I don't have, and so I will discuss those first, and then move on to the audiobooks and the physical books I've got. These books I'm going to mention now are ones that, as I say, I haven't presently got, but I will have by roughly this time next week. So, the first one is the book that has no connection with any BookTube event whatsoever. It's a horror short story anthology called It's Dark in Their Minds, Volume 1, and this is put out by RDG Books, which is Rod Gilley's publishing house. For those who don't know, Rod Gilley is an author, self-published author. I have reviewed his two collections of short stories, and I will leave a link down below to those. I really enjoyed them, and I also did an interview with Rod a couple of months ago, back in March, which I will also link in the description, which is really enjoyable. And I will also link Rod's channel as well, because Rod has, in the last couple of months, been putting out short interviews with authors, and they've been really entertaining. So I highly recommend you go and look at those. But this is it's Dark in Their Minds is a horror anthology. It has 10 short stories by 10 different authors, and I'm really looking forward to them. And because, as I said, Rod, in those interviews Rod's been doing recently, he's been interviewing a couple of the authors from this anthology, and from their description of the stories, they're really interesting. Now, I should have read this, been reading this anthology back in earlier this month, because Rod had intended to send me a free copy. However, the company that delivers it for Amazon here in Britain is called DPD, and they claim they delivered it, and they haven't. And so Rod got on to try and sort something out. They couldn't do anything. I tried my end. I couldn't do anything. So we both sort of marked that down as a loss. And so I've said I'm going to buy it myself. I said I was going to buy it myself. However, by the time that happened, it's a bit too late in the month for me to buy it then, so I'm going to buy it at the beginning of next week. So I'm going to look forward to that. As with any anthology or collection of short stories, I will of course be doing the reviews, individual story reviews, and then in the final story review I'll be doing a roundup of the whole collection as a whole. Yeah. The next book that I will be buying is another anthology of short stories, but this is actually connected to Garb August. This is Trash Tales, which is the brainchild of Olly and Alex from Alex Unabridged. And it has 27 tales, which are sort of trash tales, perfect for Garb August. And this is a sort of a sequel, as it were, to Garbology, which is the Garb August anthology that came out last year, which I did reviews of and really enjoyed the stories in there. So I'm looking forward to this. There's 27 stories altogether. And again, as with short stories, collections and anthologies on this channel, I will be giving each story an individual review. I should say that with both Trash Tales and It's Dark in Their Minds, more than likely I will at the very least review one story a day, if not more. So you may well get sort of 4 short story reviews out each day from me. Now, when it comes to the other books that I haven't got, which I am going to get, I am going to get a book called Treachery is Their Trade by Chapman Pincher, which is about Soviet espionage and in the Cold War against Britain. It's very much, I'm reading this part of sort of non-fiction trash. I'm a really big fan of Chapman Pincher's sort of espionage non-fiction, but it is very trashy. And I'm going to enjoy rereading Their Treachery is Their Trade. The next one that I'll be reading is a novelisation of a video game called Mafia. Well, it's a prequel to Mafia 3, which is a video game, one that I played recently and really enjoyed. And so it's called Plain of Jars. and so I'm going to enjoy reading that because it's as I say, it's a prequel set. Matthew 3 set in 1968 in a place called New Bordeaux, which is a fictional version of New Orleans. And the story that this prequel is set in Vietnam, where you follow the main character, Lincoln Clay, where he's serving there, and so that's going to be really enjoyable to read. And so they're the books I haven't yet bought but will be getting. Now the next two I will talk about will be the audiobooks. So the first one is actually from another event that's running throughout August called Agitation August, which is run by an event created by Margaret, a booktuber and an indie published author, which sort of talks about fiction that made you think or changed your mind when it came to politics. And so for that, I'm going to be reading, listening to The Cameron Delusion by Peter Hitchens, which very much influenced my political beliefs and how I sort of look at the way that Britain is run and the political system. And so it's going to be nice to sort of listen to this again. And I may well listen to a couple of other Peter Hitchens' books because I've got them all on audiobook, so that you might get more than one review for Agitation August, depending on how things go. So that's one audiobook I'll be listening to. I should say I'll leave a link down below to Margaret's channel. Now, the other audiobook I'm going to be listening to is actually one connected to Garb August, which is Confidential, the inside story of Hollywood's notorious scandal magazine by Samantha Barbas. Don't think that's showing up well. No, sorry about that. Somebody's not sure. But anyway, it's a history of Confidential magazine, which is sort of scandal ragging Hollywood that ran from 1952, I think, up until the late 70s. And it reported sort of all sorts of stuff, some true, some not true, very entertaining stuff to read about. I've listened to this before and I've really enjoyed it, and so it'd be nice to hear it again. If anybody watching this is a fan of James Elroy, in LA Confidential, the magazine Hush Hush is inspired by Confidential magazine, and sort of the signing of how Sid Hudgens, the editor of the magazine, signs off it on the QT, and very hush hush. The QT bit is directly from Confidential magazine, so it's really sort of very much sort of steeped in the Confidential magazine, steeped in that sort of Hollywood sort of nexus when it comes to journalism of politics, media, race, sex, gender, everything. It's really interesting, sort of looking at that sort of journalism in 50s America. Especially if you're like me, a fan of James Elroy, and you sort of know what you're getting in for. Now, when it comes to the physical books, I've got quite a few. I've got, let's just see, 2, 4, 6, 7 altogether. Now, 4 of these are part of a series. So the first 4, most of the first sort of reviews will go out to me will be more than likely these ones. All of these, I should say, are going to be read for Garb August. So these first 4 are all novelisations of episodes, or to say multiple episodes of The Professionals, which was a British action crime show that was on ITV from 1977 to 1983, and it starred, in fact I'll show you, it starred Martin Shaw there as Doyle, Lewis Collins as Bodie, and then Gordon Jackson as George Cowley. And they were it's a mix between sort of, if you're in the Sweeney Special Branch, and sort of so they're an organisation called CO5, and they fought against various sort of factions, terrorism, terrorists, Soviet agents, criminals, all sorts. And so the first book I'll be reading is Where the Jungle Ends. The next one is Stakeout. The next one is No Stone. And then the final one is Crow Wolf. So those will be the first books in Garb August that I will be reading. I will be starting to read these I will start actually 1st of August with these. There's actually, I believe, 13 of these altogether, and I am at some point going to buy the rest because I've seen them on eBay and they're only going for about £3-4 ago, so which is reasonably cheap. So I'll be reading those out. Now, the next one is a sort of representative of a piece of trash which is well known in Britain. I'm not sure how well known it is elsewhere, or I should say how well known it is elsewhere these days, which is SS Panzer Battalion by Leo Kessler, 1970s, 1980s war pulp, sort of inspired by this sort of knockoff Sven Hassel. Sven Hassel, for those who don't know, was he was allegedly a Danish member of a Danish volunteer in the Waffen SS who served on the Eastern Front and then wrote a book called The Willing Flesh, I think it was called. Maybe not. But anyway, he wrote a book in the early 50s about, allegedly about his experiences on the Eastern Front, and he started writing a long-running series. And that sort of kicked off in the 60s and the 70s and 80s, sort of, particularly in Britain, a sort of boom of books discussing the sort of German experience on the Eastern Front. And they were not all not the most historically accurate of books, shall we say, and they were very pulpy and very politically incorrect. However, in this case, it's this one, however, by Leo Kessler, real name Charles Whiting, might actually be a nice balance between pulp and historical accuracy, given that Charles Whiting was a very well-regarded historian, military historian, as well as novelist. And in fact, he was a veteran of the Second World War. He joined the British Army underage in, I think, 1943, and then he served in the D-Day landings, and then sort of the campaigns from 44 to 45 into Germany itself. And I've read a couple of Whiting's other novels, notably his Common Smith BC series, which are really good. And so I'm looking forward to reading this. Actually, I should say rereading this, because I have read this before, but it was quite a while ago. The next one is one directly inspired by Olly, the founder of Garb August, which is Edge, Killer Breed by George G. Gilman, which is a sort of long-running Western series from the 70s and 80s, and this is a very hard-hitting, brutal, violent, sort of drenched in blood and sex from the 70s. And this actually is a sort of prequel covering Edge's time in the Union Army during the American Civil War, which should be interesting. And then finally, sort of rounding up with a piece of trash that from a sort of book that from a publisher I know well, but which I've never actually read, is Hired, The Sheikh's Secretary by Lucy Munro, which is a Mills and Boon, which are these are a legendary sort of category romance publisher in Britain. They are, if you're in the United States, this will be published, and it probably has been published by Harlequin. In fact, I think Harlequin bought Mills and Boon back in the 1970s. So, if you're American, this is essentially a Harlequin romance. Or in fact, it probably is a Harlequin romance, given they probably published them in both countries, as far as I can tell. So I'm going to read this because my mom is a big fan of Mills and Boon, and my nan used to be, but I've never read them, so it's going to be interesting to read them. So I'm sort of looking forward to that. Now, when it comes to live streams, the first live stream, which is actually going to be this Friday, the 1st of August at, I think, 8 PM, it's actually connected to Garb August, which is that with these books, the novelisations of the professionals, whilst British viewers of my channel will probably be aware of them, because either they will have seen them if they say, almost certainly Olly will have remembered watching the professionals as a young man, as a young boy, and people like my age will probably remember their parents, their fathers or grandfathers watching these as if you're younger than me, grandfathers watching this in the 70s and 80s, but I'm not sure how well known the professionals is outside of Britain. So what I'm going to do on that live stream on Friday, I'm going to sort of do a rough basic guide to what the professionals is, its background, the actors, the show, what roughly went on in it, and roughly the episodes, so that when I come to give the reviews, starting with Where the Jungle Ends, people sort of have an idea of what the show was about, and what these books are obviously about. And then the following Friday at 9:30, I will be doing a live stream, actually to discuss, sort of connected to Garb August, given that I'll be reading that prequel to Mafia 3 is a discussion with Britton from Smoky Dude and my friend AI, who runs a channel called AI Shire Homelander, who discusses politics, media, and sort of all sorts on the channel. We're going to be discussing the whole Matthew genre, so that will be Matthew Definitive Edition, Matthew 2 Definitive Edition, and then Matthew 3, which I'm really going to enjoy because I've recently replayed Matthew Definitive Edition, played Matthew 2 Definitive Edition for the first time, and then played Matthew 3 for the first time, and I've really enjoyed them. So it's going to be nice to be able to discuss them with people. And then finally, at 8 PM on Sunday the 17th of August, I'm going to be doing a sort of birthday live stream called Q&A, because it is my, it's my 34th birthday this year on the 17th of August, and so I'm going to have we're going to do a lot to celebrate that, and also I'm going to do a Q&A. So I will put a video up about a week, so the Sunday before, saying for people to leave questions under the comment. But if you want to leave a question under the comment here, comment under here with a question, you're more than welcome. Also, you can send me an email because I'll be in the description, and if you're on X or in Discord, just DM me, and I'm more than happy. I'll make it out of the question, and I can sort of answer it in the Q&A live stream. That live stream will go on for quite a while, so if anybody's watching this and you want to come on, you're more than welcome. When I do that live stream, I'm going to put the StreamYard link in the description, so you can click on it and you can come on as long as you want. I'm hoping to go, as I say, for a few hours. And also, I am in the afternoon. I'm going for a meal with my family where I'm going to have a drink. So things will be interesting, especially given I'm going to decide to drink during the live stream itself. So you may see something of a different side to me. But those are the live streams I've got planned for August so far. There will be the regular viewers of the channel will know that I've been doing live streams roughly every month with Steve Stark, John Davies and Stephen Stoppard, where we discuss our top 3 films of a genre. Well, this coming month, I don't know when because I haven't sort of finalised the date with John, Steve and Stephen, but we're going to do one of our top 3 favourite adaptations. So this will be adapted from film, TV, play, book and maybe even radio, though I can actually only think of one film that's technically a radio adaptation. But anyway, that will be sometime probably later on in August, after my birthday stream, I should imagine. I should say that Steve and John may also make an appearance on my birthday stream as well, so that should be something to look forward to. So with that, BookTube, I will say goodbye, and I will see you actually tomorrow, because I'll have one more review for Don't Die July. So with that, BookTube, I say goodbye, and I'll see you later. Bye, BookTube.